أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين اللهم انصر أولياءك في غزة وفي الضفة وفي لبنان وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها اللهم لعن واقتل وانتقم من الذين يقتلون الأبرياء والأطفال والنساء والشيوخ في غزة وفي الضفة وفي فلسطين كلها وفي لبنان اللهم اشتت شملهم ومزق جمعهم وخرب بيوتهم ودمر ديارهم وزلزل أقدامهم وانزل بهم بأسك الذي لا ترد عن القوم المجرمين اللهم لا ترفع لهم رأيا ولا تحقق لهم غاية واجعلهم عبرة وآية يا رب العالمين اللهم انصر إخواننا وعبادك في اللهم انصر عبادك في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها اللهم فرج عن عبادك اللهم فرج عنا وعن عبادك في غزة اللهم فرج عنا وعن إخواننا في غزة وفي الضفة وفي لبنان وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها اللهم نفس كربنا وكربنا وثبت أقدامنا وأقدام والتفنا به يا أرحم الراحمين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Okay, so last time we had stopped here. So I try to explain to Negri why today revolution is no longer possible. So then he asked a series of questions. Why is the neoliberal system of rule so stable? Well, stability or apparent stability is in itself is not even if we accept that it is a stable system. Stability is happening. Stability in itself is not a reason or proof that revolution is no longer possible or revolution is impossible or revolution is not coming. I mean, just remember what Carter said not long before Iranian revolution came. He regarded the rule of the Shah. I think he said I think he said the regional stability in the sea of instability or something like that. So, and one reason why people think, even if neoliberal system is stable, I think this leads us to the main point, and the main point is this: when we think about evolution, people mostly think about events, the event of revolution. For example, 1979, Islamic Revolution in Iran, or 1989 mutiny in East Europe, or before that, French Revolution, American Revolution. So there are dates: 1789, 1689 or something like that, 1789, and dates like that. 1948, I mean 1848. Those were the failed revolutions. So what I'm saying is, generally we associate revolution with events. Because events is when actual people see the transition from one system to another actually happening in concrete terms. But events are not the most important elements in revolution. However you define revolution, events are preceded by and accompanied by long surface transformations. Basically, what happens is, before any successful revolution, and revolution doesn't mean it's good or bad. There can be good revolution, then can be bad revolution. Evolution in itself is not something good or bad. But any revolution worthy of name culminates in an event, a spectacular event. That's what we normally associate revolution. But they are preceded by long transformations, which is occurring under the surface, which people normally don't see, because on the surface it seems that the system which is ruling is stable and going on. Uh, um, and what happens is, if you look up new institutions are emerging alongside the existing institution in power, whether they are institution at the individual level or social level or state level, and the power and legitimacy is transitioning to those institutions. And if there is a political movement to accompanied with this social, individual, and state level transformation at the institutional level, it can um, it can wage a war against the existing system, and that may or may not lead into a successful eventual event of transformation from one system to another. But before that happens, it's hard to see the transition which is occurring um, from one system to the other at the deep structural and non-structural level. That's why when you say a system is stable, probably you're saying that there are no events. It might be stable on the surface, but at the deep level, there is transformation occurring. So I'm not saying that neoliberal system is being challenged in this way. I think it's not. But stability is no ground to think that the system is strong. It might be strong, it may not be strong, etc. And how can somebody say that the neoliberal system is stable when it's ridden with so many contradictions? An internal contradiction I'm talking about. But probably he is saying it's stable because there's no alternative. to liberalism within the West or even overall. So that might be true. Um, um, yeah, that might be true. But what I'm saying is the stability in itself is no proof of the strength of a system. A neoliberal system is very unstable inherently because, for example, as compared to Fordist or um, Fordist system, for example, the manufacturing-based system, it's very unstable because it's based on finance and debt, and the ratio of debt to real economy or ratio of finance to real economy is very lopsided in a sense that normally it should be like these. Normally, you should have in a strong, stable capitalist system. You should have like it should be like this. This is the manufacturing and real economy, and this is finance. But neoliberal system is like this. Sorry. uh, what I'm trying to say is like this. So this is manufacturing and this is finance. So structurally, it's a very unstable system. That's why you have crises, bubbles, periodic crises and bubble. And there's no uh, there's no saying, there's no um, guarantee that this system would not collapse. And the last thing is probably people think neoliberal system is stable because they think there are no alternatives to the capitalist system within the first world, at least. And that's true. That's why, for example, even those who see the collapse of the neoliberal system, for example, Wolfgang Streeck, who's more um, who is more equipped to assess the health of neoliberal system as a political economist and political sociologist than, for example, Hahn or Negri. Streeck believed that this capitalist system is actually collapsing; it's withering away. But what? But he think Streeck think that there is not going to be any revolution because there is no alternative. It will just wither away without being, or it will just linger on because although the system in itself is very unstable and very weak and ridden with internal contradictions, the system is not amenable to or not facing a revolutionary change because there's no alternative. There's nothing taking the place of the existing institutions, etc. But that's a different take, and I think need to be tackled separately. But what Han is saying is just based on surface of observations in this context, because obviously if he thinks that neoliberal system is very stable, unless he mean by very stable that it doesn't have any alternatives, viable alternatives in the first world, at least, for example. Otherwise, how can someone say that neoliberal system is, which is basically a monopoly finance capitalism? What is neoliberal system? Some monopoly capitalism, but capitalism in which monopolies are not the actual manufacturing giants, but financial giants, tech giants, which are all so it's sort of techno financial capitalism. But financial capitalism, especially monopoly financial capitalism, is inherently very weak, inherently very stable. So how can he say that it's very stable? Okay. And I think in the next sentence he gives away that the interpretation I just said. Why is there so little opposition to it? Opposition, by opposition he means alternatives. That might be true in the first world, for example, in the mature capitalist world. But just because you don't have alternative doesn't mean that it is very stable. A system can be inherently unstable even when it has no opposition. It can be unstable in itself, and that's what neoliberal capitalism is. A system is. And he's saying, why does all opposition so swiftly goes nowhere? Because there are no alternatives. That's true. So if that's the reason it is stable and strong, then so be it. But that's not a very good. This is not a positive stability. It's just a negative stability in the sense that your enemies are weak, or the enemies don't exist, for example, or at least not in the core of capitalism. Why is revolution no longer possible despite ever greater gap between? Well, that's you also saying, and that also gives away something important. He has a specific conception of revolution. So the gap between the gap between rich and poor, inequality, widening inequality, it is the hallmark of financial capitalism. It thrives on that, and it weakens people. It weakens capitalism in many ways. It weakens demand, for example. It weakens consumption, for example, which is the vehicle for capital accumulation. So accumulation is that's why occurring in financial markets mainly. And it weakens the legitimacy in the sense that poor people would not be partial to the system. And also because the raison d'etre of capital accumulation is overcoming scarcity and creating sovereignty of human beings. So poor people are by definition not sovereign in that sense. So that should weaken capitalism in that sense. And structurally it is weak, but why there's no revolution? His conception of revolution seems like a system in which poor will become richer, if not rich. So that's not revolution as far as we are concerned. I mean, so in social democratic capitalism, poor would be more rich, but that doesn't mean that there is a revolution. It's just a transition from neoliberalism back to social democracy, for example. Even though that doesn't seem possible, but his conception of revolution seems very like it's sort of a transformation of within capitalism, not transcending capitalism as such. Okay. So he's saying, explaining requires that we first understand how power and the rule functions today. Okay. So probably he's going to tell us how power, what is power, and what are the rules and how they function today. Okay. So we'll see that in the next session, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وصل وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد. اللهم صل على محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الطعن والطاعون وعظيم البلاء في النفس والمال والأهل والولد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر مما تخاف وتحذر. والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر عدد ذنوبنا حتى تغفر. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. وصلى الله على محمد وآله وسلم. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم كما شفعت نبيك فينا فامه الله وأمرت بنا منازلنا فلا تهلكنا بذنوبنا يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.